Listen, have you ever trusted someone so completely that it never even crossed your mind they could betray you? I'm talking about the kind of trust where you don't question signatures, you don't double-check documents, you don't even imagine a backup plan. Because why would you? They're your parents. That was me, and by the time I realized what they had done, it was already too late. Or at least, that's what they thought. So let me take you back. I grew up believing my parents were strict. Yes, controlling, definitely. But at the end of the day, they always said everything they did was for my future. You know the type. Every decision, every restriction, every lecture. It was all wrapped up in that same sentence. We're doing this for you. And I believed them, especially when it came to the property my grandfather left me. Now, my grandfather and I were extremely close. Out of all the grandchildren, I was the one who spent weekends with him, who listened to his stories, who helped him around the house. And before he passed away, he made it very clear, both verbally and legally, that a specific piece of land would go to me. Not my parents, not shared. Me. I was young at the time, barely in my early 20s, so my parents stepped in to handle everything. Again, I trusted them. Why wouldn't I? Years went by. Life got busy. I moved for work, started building my career, trying to become independent. The property was always in the back of my mind, like a safety net, something I could rely on someday. And then one day, completely out of nowhere, I got a call. It was from someone I didn't recognize. A man asking if I was aware that my land had already been sold. I remember laughing. Actually laughing. I thought it was some kind of scam or confusion, but then he mentioned the exact location. My stomach dropped. I told him he must be mistaken, that the land belonged to me and there was no way it had been sold. And then he said something that still makes my skin crawl. He said, "Well, your parents signed everything. It's been finalized for months." Months. Not days, not weeks. Months. I didn't even hang up properly. I just grabbed my keys and drove straight to my parents' house. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. When I got there, they acted completely normal at first, asking me why I hadn't called, and offering tea like nothing had happened. And I just stood there and asked, "Did you sell my property?" No emotion, no build-up, just that. And the silence that followed told me everything. My mother was the first to speak. She didn't even deny it. She just said, "We did what was best." What was best? I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I asked them how they could possibly justify selling something that wasn't theirs. And my father, he actually looked irritated, like I was the problem. He said, "You wouldn't have known what to do with it anyway. We invested the money." Invested. I asked where the money was, and that's when things got worse. Because not only had they sold it, they had already used most of the money. Some of it went into a failing business my uncle was running. Some of it covered their own debts, and a portion they refused to even explain. I felt betrayed in a way I didn't even know was possible. This wasn't just about money or land. This was about trust, about being completely disregarded. I told them they had no legal right to do that. And my father laughed. Actually laughed. He said, "Everything was signed. It's done. There's nothing you can do." That sentence stayed with me. There's nothing you can do. I left that house feeling numb. Not angry yet, just empty. Like something fundamental inside me had broken. But that night, I couldn't sleep. because something didn't add up. My grandfather was very particular about legal matters. He wouldn't just leave things loosely arranged. There had to be documentation. There had to be safeguards. So the next morning, I started digging. I contacted the lawyer who had handled my grandfather's will. At first, he was hesitant to share details, but once I proved my identity, everything changed. Because according to the official records, the property wasn't just given to me, it was protected. There was a clause that my parents either didn't understand or completely ignored. The property could not be legally sold without my direct, written consent. Not a proxy, not a guardian. Me, my signature. And I had never signed anything. That's when it hit me. They had either forged my signature or manipulated the process illegally. And suddenly, that sentence, "There's nothing you can do," felt very, very wrong. Because there was something I could do. And I did. I hired a lawyer immediately. And not just any lawyer. I made sure to find someone who specialized in property fraud and inheritance disputes. When we started reviewing the documents, it became clear pretty quickly. My signature had been forged. Not even well, by the way. It was a sloppy imitation. The kind you could spot if you actually compared it side by side. But the buyers hadn't questioned it. The paperwork had gone through. And my parents had walked away with the money, thinking they were untouchable. They underestimated me. The case moved faster than I expected. Once the evidence was presented, things started unraveling quickly. The sale was declared invalid. The property, legally, was still mine. And the consequences? Oh, they were very real. There were legal actions, financial penalties. And let's just say my parents didn't walk away from this the way they thought they would. But here's the part they never saw coming. Remember when I said they thought there was nothing I could do? Well, I made sure the last paper they ever saw was mine. Because once everything was settled, I made a decision. I didn't just take the property back. I transferred it. Completely. Out of their reach. Out of their influence. Permanently. And I made it very clear, legally and personally, that they would never have access to anything that belonged to me ever again. No more handling things. No more doing what's best. Just boundaries. Real ones. They tried to call me after everything, tried to explain, to justify, to say they were thinking of the family. But I had heard enough. Because here's the truth. Betrayal doesn't just disappear because someone says sorry. And trust? Once it's broken like that, it doesn't come back the same. I didn't get revenge by hurting them. I got revenge by protecting myself, by standing up for myself, by making sure they would never have the chance to do something like that to me again. And honestly, that felt better than anything else. So, if you've ever been in a situation where someone you trusted crossed a line you never thought they would, just know this. You're not powerless, even when it feels like everything's already been taken from you. Sometimes, all it takes is one piece of truth, one document, one decision, to turn everything around. And in my case, that last paper changed everything.